everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Awaken Together podcast. I'm Kat, and today my good friend Bridgette is going to be joining us as our guest speaker, talking all about periods. It's kind of a big topic that us women have been taught that it's not cool to actually vocalize, and there's a lot of shame tied to it. So I'm super excited to tell you a little bit about Bridgette. She is one of my favorite coworkers. We work together right now. She's a marketing baddie, and she's also a female hormone coach. So in thinking about who to have on this topic as our speaker, she was like the first person to come to mind. So without further ado, welcome Bridgette.
Hey, what's up?
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so thrilled to be here, and I'm even more thrilled I got to pet your dog for like 20 minutes when I got here.
Minnie is the happiest. But yeah, so excited to just pick your brain a little bit. You've been really helpful for me in my journey of getting off hormonal birth control.
Thank you.
You were honestly a big reason why I finally took the plunge and did it.
Honestly, it makes me feel so honored because I'm like, yay, what I'm doing is important.
It's so important. It really matters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it if you could just share a little bit with our listeners of like how you got into all this work, hormone health.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild story. So when my husband and I were getting married, I decided to get back on birth control because we were going in as newlyweds, and we were like, okay, this is going to be like the exciting times. And I went to my gyno, got on birth control, and a couple months in, I had experienced like very quick weight gain. I had gained 25 pounds in 3 months. That's a lot for me quickly. Like over time, sure, whatever, but 3 months, very fast. And I started experiencing really intense depression and anxiety symptoms. And as someone who has dealt with depression and anxiety since I was a teenager, I knew what it felt like, but these symptoms were some of the worst I had ever experienced. I would wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks where I couldn't breathe for essentially no reason. Like my life was fine, nothing wild was going on, like our marriage was doing well, and I just could not figure it out. I would go to the doctor and I couldn't get answers. And so I started thinking, okay, this can't be real. They're telling me that I'm fine and it's just in my head, and I just need to go home and de-stress. And that just didn't sit well in my soul. So I started doing my own research because that's, sometimes you get pushed to the brink and you're like, well, if no one's going to listen to me, I'm going to figure it out myself.
Oh, yeah.
So my first, foot in the door was actually Dr. Jolene Brighten's book, Beyond the Pill, because I had done a bit of Googling and come to the conclusion that, surprisingly, birth control can actually impact depression and anxiety. And if it's symptoms that you already have, it can severely amplify them.
Wow.
So I started digging in. I purchased her book and I read her book cover to cover within just 2 weeks, and immediately decided. I went to my husband, we talked about it, and we were like, okay, we're going to go off birth control. We're just going to figure it out as we go along, which was terrifying because at the time I didn't know anything about the in-depth side of cycle syncing. I didn't know what it meant to really track my cycle or understand my period. And I had been so disconnected from my body that I had no clue. And so it was terrifying at first. We had one pregnancy scare right away. And after that, I was like, okay, I need to dial this in. So over the course of, I think, maybe 4 years now, I've done a ton of research. I went and got 2 health coaching certifications and have read every book I can get my hands on to really dive in and understand the in-depth, female hormone cycle. And it's so much more comprehensive than we've been led to believe. And it's so much more important and vital to our lives than we've led to believe. It has genuinely been, scientifically shown to be another vital sign. If you show up at the hospital, they're supposed to check your cycle health, and they're supposed to check your period to determine your overall well-being and health.
Wow.
Which is crazy because that's new as in, I don't know, the last 10 years or so. And it's so important, and we don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And we're so disconnected from our bodies that if you have really bad cramps, or if your breasts are sore, or if you have headaches, like, oh, that's just PMS. Like, everyone has PMS. It's no big deal. When in a perfect world, we would not experience any issues, and we would be like bleeding free and living our best lives.
Yeah, you were telling me about this yesterday at work, and that blew my mind, that like experiencing really sore boobs like leading up to your period isn't just to be expected for everybody.
No, it shouldn't be something that we all have to deal with. Cramps, headaches, fatigue, muscle soreness, just like overall mental tiredness. I mean, anxiety, depression, mood shifts, acne, even any of that stuff shouldn't actually be something we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And we have been so conditioned that, oh, women are just hormonal. Women, they just get angry one time of month, and we just, oh, women are crazy. We just got to expect that. Or people with female hormones are crazy. Like, we just have to expect that. Like, oh, whatever. And that's just been ingrained and taught to us by the patriarchy.
Yes.
That's not reality. That is something that has been given to us and force-fed to us to keep us in our places and out of our power.
Oh my God. Well, I have so many things I want to say. First, why does this happen to us? Like, in terms of the body, why do we experience like the acne, the sore boobs, the really intense cycles? Like, what are some of the reasons? I'm sure there's so many.
There are so many, but in layman's terms, it's a symptom or a sign of a hormone imbalance. So, like, me personally right now, a couple weeks ago, I went on a trip for my anniversary, and we were living large. We were eating pizza for every meal. We were drinking so many booze. We were having a great time. However, when I came home, my body was like, what the fuck, bro? Why did you do that? And so now, as I am currently menstruating today, I have had very gnarly PMS, which isn't something that I commonly deal with. Normally it's like, maybe like a little bit off, but not like where I'm laid out and have a migraine, you know? And it's typically because, like for me, I have high estrogen. So when you have high estrogen, you can sometimes have sore breasts, mood swings, acne, and headaches are very common symptoms of having higher estrogen. They are also symptoms of other hormone imbalances as well, but they are the ones most commonly connected to estrogen. And right now I'm trying to even them back out and get myself like back to homeostasis, which is not a fun process, but it's so valuable when you can even yourself out and know, because I know that how I am right now, this is not who I am, because I know how I feel when I'm healthy is like. And a hormone imbalance is not anything to be scared of. It's not anything that's going to destroy your life. It's not going to, completely fuck you over. It makes you feel like shit for sure, but it's not the end of the world, and it is fixable. Like, with the right workout routine, the right food in your body, the right like exercise. I already said workout, but like movement even outside of exercise, like going on walks or things along those lines, can so heavily impact you and heal you. And even time with friends, like what we're doing right now, like that is a healing part of the process.
I feel that. And
it's so crazy. And hormone imbalance is a hormone imbalance, and we all have them. Like that's just the reality of it. Like, every woman on the planet probably has a hormone imbalance. Every person with female hormones probably has a hormone imbalance. Like, we just
life
we
live in.
Yeah, we just do. It's what you eat, it's the products you put on and in your body, it's the environment that you're in, it's your job, it's your exercise, it's what you drink, what you listen to, what you watch. Everything affects it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mind mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that comes to mind too is PCOS, right?
Yeah.
Like polycystic ovarian syndrome. I have some friends who have experienced this in the past, some former clients too who I worked with, and I'm not like a hormone coach. So one thing that while I was researching working with these women on the topic is that one of the first things that doctors recommend to them as teens is to get on hormonal birth control. How do you feel about that?
I mean, okay, so take this with a grain of salt because I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that should be the first step in the process. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that there should be other avenues considered. I think, unfortunately, a lot of our amazing doctors on this planet have so much education around their speciality. But the body is not just one part. The body is a whole, and all of our systems are intertwined and work together. And nutrition and lifestyle play a huge, huge part in that.
Yeah.
So literally going to McDonald's, like, I'm not hating on McDonald's. I love me some French fries and some ice cream. Like, don't get me wrong here. But if I'm eating McDonald's 5 times a week versus like 1 time a week, that is really impacting my hormones versus if I'm having a smoothie for breakfast along with like a piece of toast and some walnuts, that is helping my hormones. And it's not to say that like weight has really much to do with it or anything along those lines. It's like, okay, what is your body telling you by how you feel? Do you feel good right now? Not like, oh, my pants don't fit. It's like, yeah, sure, your pants don't fit, buy a bigger pair. But like, do you feel mentally aware? Do you feel like you have energy to hang out with your friends today? Do you feel like you can go to that meeting at work and not take a nap in the back of the room? Like, there are so many things that we can consider when it comes to health. And I personally, like, when I was 14, I got put on birth control, hormonal birth control, just for acne.
Wow.
They didn't ask questions. My mom didn't know anything. She didn't ask questions, but they were like, hey, slap it on ya. And I was on birth control for 8 years as a teen in my early 20s, which is why I had to get back on it when I was like getting married because I hadn't been on it for such a long time. I was like, it's fine, whatever. But it's like what it does is it disconnects you from how you're actually feeling. So when you go on hormonal birth control, essentially what it does is it stops your natural hormone production so you don't ovulate. Yeah. Because when you're not ovulating, you can't get pregnant. So when it stops it, great, we're not ovulating, okay, we can't get pregnant, like that's a win. And I'm not going to say that birth control is like this horrible thing because it's done a lot for women and people with female hormones. Like it's done so much for us, which like shout out, we probably wouldn't be able to vote if we didn't have that sort of thing, right? Yeah. Like it's crazy. But it completely disconnects us in a way that says, hey, I'm going to get rid of your real hormones and I'm going to replace them with these synthetic hormones. And I'm going to tell your body what it's feeling and I'm just going to cover up the symptoms. I'm not actually healing you. I'm just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it so you can survive the thing.
Yeah.
Versus healing, which looks so much longer and so different. And I know that you're kind of in the process of healing from hormonal birth control right now. And it's a long process.
Seriously.
Because typically, in most cases, it can take 1 month for every year that you are on hormonal birth control to heal your real hormones.
Learning that from you was like earth-shattering for me, thinking about like, I was on birth control, hormonal birth control for 11 years straight, and then I took a little bit of a break before that, but cumulatively, probably like 16 years.
Yeah.
And so thinking about how it'll take me at least about a year for my body to
fully heal.
Fully heal, that's earth-shattering, and like, it's just crazy because thinking like one day I want kids and my whole idea is to like have my body be in a really good healed shape where I'm not, my hormones are happy, my period's normal. I've had that like 11 months to a year where I'm just completely on my own and just balanced out. And so, I mean, kind of going back to one thing you said about modern medicine and doctors and all of that, they're trained really, really well to treat symptoms.
Yes.
Not the root cause.
No.
And so I think that's also why we're seeing so much of this. Like, in our nutrition school, IIN, that we both did, a big thing that I remember learning is that in modern medicine, doctors, they are so knowledgeable on so many things, but diet and lifestyle is not one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I have a funny little anecdote about this. So my entire life, I had really gnarly stomach issues.
Yeah.
And I would go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you're just anxious. And I was like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like anxiety. Like, I know what anxiety feels like. Doesn't feel like this. And when I turned 22, I had like the worst stomach pain of my entire life. I went to multiple doctors, had multiple blood tests done. This is so dramatic, but I legitimately thought I was dying. Like, because I could not get out of bed. I would get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. My roommate would find me, like, passed out on the floor in the hallway of our dorm, like, trying to walk to the bathroom. Luckily, she was in school to be a nurse, so she loved it. She was like, oh my God, I get to use all the things I'm learning at school. And I was like, this is a great
case study.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. So I finally decided to, like, leave school and go back and live with my parents because I was like, I am so physically ill. I shouldn't be walking to school or I shouldn't be walking to class. So I go home and my mom's like, hey, my friend told me about this really cool homeopathic doctor. And this is in Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, okay, I've literally tried everything. Like, take me to whoever, whatever. So I go in, meet with this doctor, and he, like, sets intentions and, like, brings in peace into the room, like, before we even start the examination. He does a couple of presses on my, like, pelvis and stomach. He's like, okay, I'm going to have you go do a blood test. He does a blood test. I come back in the office. I answer more questions. And he's like, okay, well, good news is you're not dying. We have to wait a little while to get your blood test results, but I think you're severely allergic to gluten.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is gluten? Like, this was before everything in its mom was gluten-free, right? And so I'm like, okay, like, tell me more about it. So he's like, for the next 2 weeks, I want you to go home and just completely cut out all gluten and come back to me and see how you feel, and we'll go over your blood test results. So turns out I completely removed gluten, literally healed in a week.
Oh my God. That's insane.
Absolutely wild. Like, since that day, it's been, 9 years since I was in his office, and have not experienced even remotely the same pain that I did before because I cut gluten out of my diet. And that's, like, so crazy. And just, like, one of the ways that it's like Western medicine didn't catch this.
Yeah.
And because this person was trained on how lifestyle and nutrition also interacts and impacts the body, I was able to, like, find healing in that. And I was like, holy mackerel.
Oh my gosh. And that's why, like, viewing health holistically is the only way that we can be doing it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I'm so happy you found those answers finally.
Dude, same.
God. Yeah. So, wow. I mean, going back to, like, doctors using birth control as a crutch to treat, like, acne, to treat PCOS, to treat so many different things. Like, it seems like a very much product of our society of, like, easy fixes. Yeah. Just, like, serotonin hits. Just, like, quick fixes, easy wins. And it's kind of like a laziness, I think.
Yeah, I struggle with that because I have such a soft spot for doctors, which is, like, kind of silly because they kind of have screwed me over in so many circumstances. But it's also that, like, they're not trained in school. They don't know. So most of the doctors that we're going in to see yes, they could go seek out and they could all go get integrative health coach degrees and certifications. And yes, but, like, they've already done 12 years of school. Like, adding in another 6 months to a year probably doesn't sound super appealing, right? So yes, they could do that, but also, like, they don't have that education. So I have so much grace for it because we are in this space now where people like you and me and dietitians and all of these kinds of people who do understand more about nutrition and lifestyle exist on the planet, which is really cool because we get to kind of partner with doctors in a way that's like, okay, like, you read their blood tests, or you take their blood tests and I'll read them, or however, and then we can go over that and decide based off of that, like, what the best plan to get them started would be. Because in every instance, like, sometimes you do need medication, you know, especially for, like, mental health stuff, like, right? Like, in some instances, Western medicine is so valuable and so important, but in other instances, it's like, okay, we wouldn't necessarily need as much medication if we would just, like, swap this for this other thing.
It's like such a good perspective, and I so agree. And it becomes a point of like, who's teaching the doctors? How can we get this information into their hands?
We need to tear down the patriarchy, y'all.
Seriously. Oh my God.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, that is the root cause. Yeah. That is the root cause of all of it.
I know.
But that's another topic for another time.
It's all intertwined, right? Yeah, I'm with you. I say this a lot, but we're in the age of Aquarius where old patterns, there's no space for it. And so this uprising of
let's get rid of it.
Female energy and chipping away at that patriarchal block. We're doing it. One little chisel at a time.
When you say female energy, it just makes me really excited because the women that I've worked with, like, seeing them step into their power through connecting to their bodies, or like reconnecting to the true body that they live in, is like one of the most impactful and beautiful things I've ever seen. I had this amazing client earlier this year, and they came to me and they were like, I just don't feel feminine. Like, I don't feel feminine in my body, and I want to reconnect to my feminine. And through working with them, we discovered that it's not necessarily that they need to reconnect to their feminine. It was that they needed to reframe how they viewed feminine and masculine within themselves. Because there are some people who are women and identify as women that present more masculinely, and that is totally okay. That doesn't mean you don't have feminine energy. It just means that within you, your person, it's flowing differently. And that's not bad. But through working with this client, we were able to understand that, like, oh, their masculine energy is actually working really well with their feminine energy. And when they're hanging out with these people that have very high feminine energy, like their partner, they evened out and were so cohesive and so sweet together. And it was just like one of the most amazing things. And it was so cool to see them realize, like, oh, there's not actually anything wrong with me. Like, I'm totally perfect and awesome just the way that I am. I just needed to step into it. And it was like, it was so cool. And I just, like, literally could cry thinking about them because, like, that was just the sweetest moment ever.
That sounds so empowering. And that's also
so cool.
Where I see, like, the spiritual side of all of this work coming into play.
Yes.
In a past episode, Jen and I had talked about with astrology, reading your chart, you can literally get a breakdown of your feminine and your masculine. And how that balance works out. And with both Jen and I, we have more masculine placements than our husbands do. And so we feel that, like, on a soul level, because, like, here we are, like, being super strong, independent women, and having husbands who, like, really encourage us to feel and talk about our emotions. And
that's so awesome.
Just, like, this watery element that both of us air signs really lack in our charts. And so, I think it's like, yes, and it's all together.
It's so fucking cool. Like, just when we lean into that. And what's so crazy is when we're on any type of hormonal birth control, whether it's an IUD or a pill or a patch or an implant, whatever it is, right? Because our body is not creating hormones anymore and it's being replaced with chemicals or, like, chemical versions of hormones, the receptor that sends our brain signals of what's truly going on is, like, basically just, like, shut down. The light's turned off. It's on pause. So when you're experiencing emotion, like, there have actually been studies on this that people have not chosen partners who are true to them because of being on hormonal birth control.
Oh my God.
Like, it literally changes the way that your brain chemistry can work. So, like, there are many people who have, like, gone off of hormonal birth control within a relationship and been like, oh my God, like, I'm not straight.
Holy
or
shit.
Like, oh my God, you are, like, way too similar to me, and, like, this just isn't, like, this just doesn't work. And it's so crazy to just see how when we are not connected to ourselves, our decisions change.
Yeah.
And so when we are able to reconnect to our bodies and listen to the signals it's sending us and to connect to our emotions and things like that, we become better business people. We become better partners. We become better friends. We become better dog and cat moms and parents and plant parents, and like literally better in every way. And this I've seen so much in my own relationship with my husband, because before, when I was on the pill, I was like, I could not communicate anything clearly. Like, we would get in arguments and I would just absolutely shut down. And now I have the clarity to be like, okay, like, I'm feeling this, and what I need from you is this. And it's just helped him and me connect so much more deeply, because I can advocate for myself. And he's also able to hear me better because I'm not reacting in a crazy, like, not true to me way.
Yeah.
Which is so insane.
I resonate too. I resonate with that too. And it feels like hormonal birth control acts as like a mask for our intuitions in some ways.
Yeah.
For me, when I was on the pill, I called myself like the steadiest person I ever knew, which is a weird thing to say, right? But like Kyle would say it, and like I had friends who would just say, like, you're always happy, like you're always just so steady and good. And I'd be like, yeah, I am. And
I'm the best, I know.
I feel great all the time, to a point where it was like maybe a little weird.
Yeah.
And then getting off the pill, I was completely rocked.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was, for the first 2 months, just, and it didn't show up until maybe like a month in. But around the time where I should have gotten my period based on like my past.
I think I remember this.
You remember?
Yeah.
There was one day at work where I just started crying.
Yeah.
When we were doing our personal check-in of like, how are you?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just started tearing up. I was like, not steady.
Which
basically.
That's also totally okay.
Yeah. It just felt so on me that I was just shocked.
Yeah.
And any little thing would set me off.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with Kyle, because my cancer, my water husband, just like so in touch with his emotions. And I remember being like, is this how you feel all the time?
He's like, yeah, dude.
I was just like previously so like unable to really connect with like the highs and the lows, because I was just so flatline steady all the time, that it has now, like, that I have leveled out my hormones a bit in 3 months since getting off of it. Still haven't gotten my period, but it'll come.
It will come.
Not pregnant. This happened to me last time I got off the pill. I didn't get it for 9 months, just to say. So I'm not really concerned.
We can do it.
We're here. We're doing it. We're able to connect so much more.
Yeah.
Because I have that sense of like empathy, because I've felt now the highs and the lows, and I feel it more regularly on an ongoing basis. Yeah. So it's done wonders for our relationship too.
I love that. That's so good. It's also like, I think with what you do work-wise, like working with so many different people and personalities, it helps you to be able to really connect to them how they need it. In a way that's authentic. Versus like having to try and show up in that way. When you're like, but I don't feel like I can match you there, because I haven't necessarily experienced that emotion for myself recently, or you know. Exactly.
Like, I'm great at holding space. Before, it's because like I was just steady all the time, and I had like a built-in guard. Like, I would not take on people's energies because I was just so steady. But now I'm enjoying holding space for a different reason. It's like I can connect a little bit deeper heart to heart. But I can still draw my energy back and like have those ties.
Which that is such a valuable lesson to learn too. Like, even through this process, is understanding where your energy ends and where someone else's begins. Because when we aren't connected to our bodies, we can't figure that out. It's so hard to be like, oh, that's not mine.
Right.
And to not keep it, or to like rinse it off, or to throw it away, or to like just literally say, that's not my energy. We have a good friend at work, and if someone comes in their space that's like kind of off, or like has bad vibes, they will literally out loud say, that's not mine. I'm not keeping it. Take it back.
State it.
Like, after the person leaves, obviously. Like, you're not going to say to their face, like, hey, you have bad energy. But, like, once they walk away and they're in their own area and, like, it's safe with people that they know, they're like, that's not my energy. I'm not keeping that. And I'm like,
it.
that is so impressive. Just to understand and recognize that and be so in touch with yourself and your body and understand like, okay, like I don't need to absorb that today.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So cool.
I love it so much. That's a
So
great
cool.
tip.
Yeah, throw it off.
Practice that more. Just like speak it. Yeah.
Oh, we all need to do that.
Exactly. So I feel like we've gotten to the bottom that getting off of hormonal birth control, if you're in the place in your life to do so, I mean, even to switch to another form of birth control, potentially is kind of like a spiritual practice.
I would say, yeah.
I'd say so, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about that, and for any listeners that we might have who are interested to potentially start this process for themselves,
Yeah.
what like first intro tips would you give?
First intro tips would be do your research before you get off and be prepared before you get off for the shifts. Because a lot of people that I have had the pleasure of working with or know as friends and have like given recommendations to kind of just like, this is what I did. I kind of like read a book and was like, fuck it, I'm just literally stopping the pill tomorrow.
Hell girl.
Which isn't recommended. You shouldn't just like stop taking the pill. You kind of need to like taper off of it because your body's so used to taking it that if you just like jump ship, it could mess you up a little bit more than you needed it to.
I'm a testament to that.
So I would recommend slowly, if you're on the pill, tapering it off. And if you have like an IUD, I have a really good girlfriend who got her IUD out earlier this year, and she prepared a month in advance to get her IUD out. And I want to say this is like, if you go to your gynecologist and they are not a functional gynecologist or a homeopathic gynecologist or someone who understands the other side of medicine, like nutritional, lifestyle based, they will encourage you to stay on the pill most likely and kind of not, this is my friend's case, and this was in my case as well, is they were very adamant about us not getting off of hormonal birth control because, oh, it's going to mess you up and you're going to, all of your signs and symptoms are going to come back and you're going to feel worse than before. And like, yes, all of that is true, but it's not a reason to stay on birth control.
Seriously.
And it's also, they aren't providing you with another resource. They're not providing you with education. And my recommendation would be, if you really personally want to get off of hormonal birth control, like go into the situation ready to advocate for yourself. And if you can't advocate for yourself, bring someone in your life who you know can advocate for you well on your behalf.
That's an awesome tip.
Because like, I know for me, if I told my husband, hey, I want to go off hormonal birth control, and we went to the doctor and I was feeling wishy-washy, he would advocate very heavily for me. Because, I mean, well, now he knows that I'm so much better off of birth control because I actually understand myself. But also, like, he wants me to feel healthy and well, and he wants to fight for me in any case scenario. So if you have a friend like that, a parent, a partner, anybody that can advocate for you, if you're not in the space to do that for yourself, invite them along into your journey because we all need that support. And outside of that, I would say, give yourself a month to prepare, knowing what kind of food you should eat coming off the pill that will help get your hormones in line, that can help ease you into the process. My best recommendation, if you want something, like if you can't hire a health coach or a hormone coach, would be to buy the book Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton and the book Woman Code by Alyssa Vitti. Those are my top two recommendations for people who want to do the research themselves and want to learn how to come off the pill in a healthy, holistic, sustainable way. Just because all of our bodies are so different. This is a big thing they teach to us in IIN, where Kat and I both went, is bio-individuality, right? Like, how I am coming off the pill might be so different than how Kat experienced coming off the pill. And my friend who came off her IUD is so different than how I experienced it. Like, she bounced back super quickly. Her body, within 2.5 months, she was having her period regularly. She was not having really bad cramps. Like, she bounced back very, very quickly. But I also believe that's because she started prepping herself before.
Yeah.
And then I would say my next recommendation would be to use a condom every single time you have sex until you understand your cycle. Because personal snafus over here. If you don't, you could wind up with a pregnancy scare. And usually that's not what you want.
No,
not right away, usually.
Any of us like pregnancy scares. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid those at all costs, most likely. So I would say, like, talk with your partner, and most likely if your partner's supportive of you coming off the pill, they will be like, oh, for sure, like, I'll totally use a condom. And if they don't, that's a whole other discussion for another day. Yeah. Let's really reconsider that, partner. But,
Yes.
That's just my personal opinion. But use a condom every single time until you are very, very, very dialed into your cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then my next recommendation would be to start taking it easier on yourself when it comes to physical movement. Like, if you know in the next month and a half you want to come off the pill, like, maybe don't train for a marathon. Let's do some disheveled girl walks. Let's do some Pilates. Let's go to yoga. Like, maybe don't do a sculpt class. Like, maybe do like a power vinyasa, or like a cool down, or some hatha, or something like more chill. And really focus on like slowing down your body and tuning in and listening more. And also I would strongly advocate, I'm sure Kat would as well, for meditation.
Yes.
Meditation is such a great way to learn how to listen to yourself more clearly and to sit with yourself more clearly, because that is something, while being on birth control, that you don't necessarily get the power to do.
Yeah.
So when you come off, everything's going to be crazy, and you'll really want to learn how to tune in and understand like what's actually happening versus what's like a symptom of coming off the pill, or what is like your hormones waving, and know what your true north is.
Absolutely. So it sounds like leaning into the feminine energies of like slowness, the left side, the cool side, slowing down. And
yeah, if I can do bullet points for you.
Yeah.
So talk with your doctor. Ease off of birth control. If you can, IUD is different. If you can't advocate for yourself, bring someone with you. Start to prepare a month in advance by doing research. Read some books like Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton and Woman Code by Alyssa Vitti, or listen to them if you're more of a listener.
That's me.
I mean, it's great for a walk. Slow down your movement, so take it slow, and add in meditation.
Amazing tips. I wish I had asked you about this before I just lost my pill at Electric Forest and decided, that's it. It's a sign from the universe.
We're doing it.
We're getting off it right now. And then I found it like 2 months later. I was like, well, we're off.
I will say, if that does happen to any of the listeners, do not be worried. Kat's handling it very well.
Thank you.
And you also, like, I did the same thing. I was just like, I'm getting off the pill tomorrow.
Cold turkey.
So I just, like, literally threw away my pill pack and was like, we're doing it. Not the best idea, but it's not the end of the world. You can still totally heal your hormones, and you can work your way back to equilibrium. It just might look a little bit differently than if you are able to prepare. So if that does happen to you, or if you are just a wild card and you decide, fuck it, I'm going to throw it away and I don't care, you know what? We can do this. You've got it. You're fine.
And I also want to say that clearly, after hearing all of this knowledge from Bridgette, like, she is an expert on this, and this is literally what she does as a female hormone health coach. So ways to connect with Bridgette, because she, I mean, if any of this sounds like a lot of information, it is.
It's a
lot. It would be such a great service to yourself to tap into like someone who can help you high level with all of this and get into it, and just have like a little cheerleader, because you're so that for me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and what
of
are
course.
some ways that our listeners can connect with you?
Well, on Instagram, I am at thedesertmoon.co, and I also have a TikTok, but that's just Outfit of the Days. So,
which are awesome.
If you are interested in hormones, Instagram is the place to be. If you're interested in outfits, TikTok's the place to be, which is The Desert Moon Co., all one. And then I have a website, which is thedesertmoon.co, also linked in my bio on TikTok and on Instagram. And I recently, this has been something very requested, released a female hormones for the bros guide. So one thing I've come across in my work is that a lot of men have a hard time understanding all of the in-depthness of the female hormone cycle because it's not within their body. So of course they're going to connect very differently. And through working on this myself and helping friends, I've just learned and discovered that like boyfriends, partners, husbands, brothers, cousins, dads all need the education. So this guide is a very layman's terms breakdown of the cycle phases, cycle syncing, how to plan a date for your partner in whatever phase they're in, foods, things like that. Very easy to grasp booklet I wrote on behalf of men, for men, or people who identify as men, so they can connect more easily to the feminine piece of the hormone cycle.
Thank you so much for creating that. I'm literally going to go on your website after this and buy it. It's $20?
$15.
What a steal. What a steal.
And it has been vetted by many, many men. I've had my brothers, my dad, my husband, all of my husband's friends read through this, and my brother-in-law, and like give me notes.
Amazing.
And so it's been very vetted by men.
You've done your research and some.
Yeah, I tried.
Amazing. Oh, well, I can't wait to dig into that. And listeners, if you have any further questions for us, for Bridgette, connect with us on social at Awaken Together Podcast or thedesertmoon.co. And I feel like I want to have you on again for all the details of like the cycle. And there's just so much we can learn from you.
Oh, there's a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I had so much fun being here, and I love it. I'm so glad we get to spend so much time together.
Me too. I love you.
I love you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.